earth has spun, the seasons have changed somewhere, I'm sure. And once again, it's the most wonderful time of the year. Welcome to the 2025 season of the Octemberfest podcast. I am Jeff, your host and purveyor of the paranormal, and this is the weekly recap. I learned a lot doing these last year. I learned it helps to write something down rather than wing it. I learned to edit audio a bit better. I learned that I can't use Audacity effectively to save my life. Did I learn anything about how mentally harmful it is to jam fistfuls of terrible cinema directly into your brainstem? No, my friends, I did not. While I don't think I can go bigger than last year's 100 movie mark, I can damn well try to match it. I didn't have a clever theme or gimmick to get me rolling this time. Didn't open with the alphabet game like last year. I've gone straight to my usual daily themes. But because I've changed up some of my streaming sources, this year I'm a bit blinder than usual. No reviews for many of them, not so much as an IMDb or site rating for some of them, just a title, a poster, and a marketing blurb. And honestly, it hasn't been as painful as expected. With no theme in mind, I kicked things off with a movie I'd seen some hype about, but I couldn't remember where or when. Grizzly 2, The Revenge, made in 1983 and finished in 2020, almost doesn't count as a movie. I wish I'd done my research before I committed to this watch, because it was a damned mess. The poster art proclaims it stars George Clooney, Laura Dern, and Charlie Sheen, along with a giant, angry grizzly. Incoming spoiler. To spare you from wasting your time and brain cells, the three movie stars named above are out of this movie in the first 5 minutes. They star in this the way Drew Barrymore was the star of Scream. And the giant grizzly, it gets less screen time than these future A-listers. The movie opens with some very HD nature footage, flying over forests and some bears frolicking. Definitely not 1983 stuff, high-res drone camera footage. Then it hits the original photography. While the old film was cleaned up pretty well, it's jarring to have it jump from the super high-resolution shots to the 80s era indie film. Despite this, I still had hope going into the first real scene, which was shaken a little bit when George Clooney is dancing to non-existent music that should have been piping out of his boombox. Okay, bad audio, not the end of the world. This was just the tip of the cash grab iceberg. This movie was never really finished. From the light research I did, it seems as though filming shut down after one of the producers disappeared on the first day of shooting, arrested for shady business dealings. After principal photography wrapped in a bit over a month, a work print, an unfinished movie that can be used to shop around for more funding, was made, and the project was abandoned. Somehow that work print made its way to YouTube and became kind of a cult thing as a bad unfinished movie. A popular YouTube personality posted a review of it, which was DMCA'd by the current owner of the film, but word had gotten out. With people now talking about her product, this owner decided to slap some stock footage and cheap CG to the front, borrow or badly film a couple of fill scenes, and market this pile of rancid feces as a movie. I wanted to bail after 15 minutes, but it was the first film of the year, and it would set bad precedent. So I suffered through 75 minutes of bad concert footage and overused stock B-roll. I was very angry when this ended. So I decided to watch the original Grizzly, a 1976 indie Jaws ripoff, because it couldn't be worse, right? Well, it wasn't. It wasn't. There's not much special about Grizzly. Some passable angry bear scenes, some amusing rubber arms being thrown around as gore effects, and inoffensive acting. Grizzly was fine. Until the end, when it gets bonus points for dispatching the Ursine menace with a rocket launcher. I was going to keep on the bears kick, but the movies I dug up seemed a bit more action, wildlife, adventure than Octemberfest. So I pivoted to a Sasquatch movie to close out the night. Still in the woods, still big hairy monster. Stranded from 2023 sucks. It just fucking sucks. I'm not going to bother with the plot because it doesn't matter. It's just four assholes, only one of whom can act, sitting in a car shouting at each other while a guy in an ape costume runs around outside. While they completely failed, they did have an all-right idea at the center of this, though. The main characters are estranged siblings, headed to the woods to spread the ashes of their mother, and the Bigfoot attack forces them to settle their infighting and move on to survive. It does this very badly. but it brought to mind a much better execution of this concept. I don't watch spooky TV shows during Octemberfest because there just isn't time. A 10-hour series could be between 5 and 8 movies, but I do like to watch them as a warm up to the season. Mike Flanagan's Haunting of Hill House from 2018 is one of my favorites. It does a great job of balancing scares and story with a lot of very strong performances. The real center of this story isn't the ghosts in the Hill House, but the relationships of the family that lived there and what's become of their lives since. And through the course of the series, being driven back into traumatic situations forces these broken people to find closure with a lot of their interpersonal issues. It's great, and you should watch it. I decided to focus the next night's viewing on what I called Ghost Hunts Gone Right, movies about people making ghost hunting shows that actually find ghosts, because that's the point, right? First up, Against the Night from 2017. A group of friends decide to move their housewarming party to an abandoned prison to shoot a ghost hunting vid for their annoying pal's YouTube side hustle. This one was okay. Camera work was mostly in focus, acting didn't make me wish for temporary deafness, and the annoying guy who kept talking out of his ass was actually called out on it by other characters. These are all good things. Bumped it up a point because they toss in a couple of good twists. Some expected, some unexpected, and one very unexpected. Not good, not bad, not long. Okay. Moving on, and up in professional quality, Hollows Grove from 2014. Three guys who make a network ghost hunting TV show invite their friend to join them on a run while he shoots a documentary about their series, accompanied by their network producer and their effects guy, a cameo by Bishop himself, Lance Henriksen. They head to an abandoned orphanage, and the rest is a flurry of decent effects and spooky ghost kids. It reminded me of Grave Encounters, which is an Octemberfest classic. Kids are creepy. Rounding out the trifecta, House of Bones, 2010. Apparently, I watched this in 2018, but I didn't remember it at all, and I wasn't keeping notes aside from titles back then. It stars Charisma Carpenter and Corin Nemec, who people of a certain age might remember as Parker Lewis, who it turns out can, in fact, lose. Another TV broadcast ghost hunting show crew, this time under pressure from the network due to falling ratings. They head to a haunted house in Louisiana, and a TV 14 live action monster house ensues. I'm not surprised I forgot this one after the rewatch. It's utterly forgettable. Nothing is good enough to remember or bad enough to scar. Skip it, watch it, who cares? Went wandering into the woods again for the third night. Lost Lands and Lost Gods. Some folk horror. This stuff is usually strange and slow and hard to follow. And I got all three with my screenings. Lord of Misrule from 2023 has us following a vicar who has moved to a rural English village with her husband and daughter. Her daughter is selected to be the harvest angel at the annual festival and goes missing during the festivities. The vicar, feeling a bit snowed by the Keystone constables, goes digging into the disappearance herself and discovers some ancient rituals to a land spirit are still being practiced by some of the townsfolk. This felt a bit Midsummer Light, which is probably good for most people, considering Midsummer. It's pretty solid. So now I'm riding high. Nothing too bad last night. Tonight's open was fun. What could go wrong? Art films. Art films can go wrong. Ennis Men, made in 2022, is misleadingly described as a masterful vision of horror. It's not even a movie. It's a series of disconnected, artificially grainy, poorly edited, badly mic'd scenes put together to make art critics think about stuff. The plot, as much as I can tell, is that a woman is alone on an island in Wales, I think, studying some flowers. Mostly, the film is a loop of her daily routine, walking out to the flowers, walking around the island, walking back to her little house. She starts to hallucinate miners and herself as a kid and a survivor of a boat crash. I don't know. I don't care to know. This one pissed me off a lot. Longest 90 minutes of my month so far. I needed something safe after the Ennis Men debacle. So I fired up a personal favorite, 2016's Black Mountain Side. I talked about this one last year, so I'm not going to spend much time on it again. But I found myself wondering why I like it so much this time. The acting isn't great. The plot is confusing at best. The camera work is nothing special. The antagonist is an upright stuffed deer costume. Somehow, it still builds an atmosphere that keeps me engaged rather than bored. Maybe it's the insinuation of Lovecraftian elder god parasites. Who knows? I still like it. As I am now creating content, I should maybe back off my hatred of content creators. But I haven't yet, so for the next evening's watch, I picked a trio of films about influencers getting in over their heads. Coincidentally, all from 2022. Chad Gets the Axe was the most grating at the outset. Instantly hit with the most obnoxious cliches of TikToker, YouTuber, PewDiePie nonsense. Overexcited assholes with no sense of responsibility for the crap they do so long as it gets views. It's made even more aggressive by the presentation, constantly flipping around as though you're watching from a mobile device, flicking out of the app and then back into the app and switching apps, and portrayed on an iMac screen or an iPhone or some other thing, with a running chat log of viewer responses along the side for most of the movie. But as it went on, the satire takes hold. Everything's exaggerated on purpose. The audience is as vile as the creators, rooting for them to die, not helping when they need help, just watching as the events unfold. And in the end, I didn't totally hate this flick. Still not great, but there's creativity here. Mean Spirited failed to reach this level. A grown-ass man still running a YouTube prank channel takes his operation on the road to visit his old best friend, who he abandoned to a creepy old guy after a childhood prank gone wrong. His old friend is now a Hollywood big shot with a fancy house in the Poconos, so our hero goes to expose him as a fraud because the title of this movie is accurate. Things don't go to plan, devil worshippers are involved. It's dumb. I should have spotted the writer, director, co-star trifecta in the credits. Same guy doing all three roles, but instead I watched someone's ego trip in a crappy fame jealousy devil cult who gives a shit narrative. It was at least a movie. The scenes fit together, there's somewhat discernible plots, but no one acts like a human being in it, even while they're still people. I wrapped up this night with another one I talked about last year, Deadstream. This one might be the pinnacle of this style of movie. Good tone, good pace, the performances are strong. I still like it. Still recommend it. Next up, a trio of movies with predominantly black casting, because I wanted to watch all three, and that was the most they had in common. Woman in the Yard, new this year, was the first offering. A woman who sucks is not handling the death of her husband well. She lives on a farm with her two kids, one of whom seems to be managing all of her motherly responsibilities while she does nothing but give him shit for his efforts. The other one's maybe 5 years old. A mysterious woman shows up on their property, says cryptic things, paranormal activity ensues. The movie's a mess. There's a message about mourning here, but if we're supposed to empathize with the lead's mental state, maybe make them less hateable. I never liked the lead, and I never connected with the film because of it. Still, it's a real movie made with real actors and real equipment, which puts it well above most of what I'll watch this month quality-wise. I've been meaning to watch Nope since it was released in 2022. Jordan Peele makes weird horror movies. They're usually a lot of fun to watch, even if they don't hold up to deep thinking on the plot. I'm looking at you, us. I'm not going to summarize the plot here because it would take a lot of the fun out of the movie, but I will say I really enjoyed this one. The cast is strong, the effects are well done, the story's original. There's a bunch of messaging here too, which I think is another common element of Peele's work, but it's not shoved down your throat. Rather, if you look for meaning, you'll find it. That's art I can get behind. Lastly, another new movie. This is unusual for Octemberfest. I'll have to do some diggings into the archive to see how often I see movies the year they come out. Look for that in next week's intro. I watched Sinners, Ryan Coogler's latest Michael B. Jordan vehicle. A pair of brothers, both Jordan, and their cousin are getting a new juke joint set up in 1930s Mississippi. And then vampires. There are undead here, but this never really feels like a horror movie. There are horrors for sure, because black folks in the South, but there's more interesting, uplifting, mystical elements at play here. As far as movies go, it's pretty excellent, but for Octember, it's an odd fit. I rated it below Nope, mostly because it didn't feel like it belongs in this season. And then it was Werewolf Day. Tradition has it that I consume werewolf films on the Octember full moon, so I tagged a bunch of fodder and got to viewing. And it was exhausting. 1984's The Company of Wolves is a weird movie. It's a series of fairy tale vignettes about wolves, framed by Angela Lansbury telling her granddaughter stories to scare her away from men, in some medieval village, framed by the same girl in 1980s England, sleeping while wearing a bunch of makeup. If that seems confusing, yes. The fairy tale style is contrasted by the surprisingly gruesome and mostly effective practical effects. A man tears all the skin off his body before turning into a wolf in the first story. It all left me very confused about who this was for, as horror fans don't need Aesop's fables read by Murder, She Wrote, and kids aren't usually too pleased with the original gory Grimm's tales. Keith R. Robinson's Werewolf, aka Silverhide from 2015, is trash. Second only to Grizzly 2 in the things I've hated so far. Badly shot, badly conceived, mostly the ramblings of a conspiracy theorist who thinks the British military is making an invisible werewolf soldier in the moors. Yes, the werewolf in this one is invisible for the most part because their costume was that bad. Unfortunately, the actors weren't all playing mutes because their delivery was equally bad. Keith R. Robinson owes me an hour and change back. If you've not noticed by now, I'm a sucker for thematic patterns. I found a pair of werewolf movies that were both about people making a scary movie, but the set is attacked by a mysterious creature, so of course I had to watch them back to back. The Snarling from 2018 is packed with American Werewolf in London references, some of which I didn't even realize until later in the evening. It takes a pretty light tone throughout, and it's got some legitimate, intended laughs, but it's not clever enough or bad enough to really seek it out. The wolf costume isn't great, they mostly kept it hidden. It's fine. Scream of the Wolf from 2023 takes a darker tone to an almost identical plot. There are better gore effects here, the wolf costume's okay, and they get overconfident with it at the end and film it in broad daylight. I was hoping for more from either of these, because there's a lot of fun to be had in movies about movies, but it fails to deliver. Mediocre. It had enough British werewolves for the moment, so I fired up Blood Moon, a 2015 movie that I think exists because someone had access to an Old West town. A group traveling by stagecoach is attacked by bank robbers while watering their horses in a mostly empty town. Meanwhile, the sheriff of the town they robbed is chasing the thieves, assisted by his native guide. Then a werewolf, which they call a skinwalker, attacks the stagecoach group, and the sheriff finds out his guide is also a skinwalker, and the mysterious stranger the stagecoach picked up happens to be a secret skinwalker hunter. All the conveniences collide to make this plot never really come together. It's fine, fun enough to pass the time, but not interesting enough to remember. I'll probably rewatch this in 7 years when I forget I've seen it. I saved the good stuff for last. We're a half dozen lycanthrope movies deep here, and I haven't rated anything higher than a 6. But I stacked the deck a bit by putting things that had real releases on the bottom. Werewolves Within from 2021 is apparently based on an Ubisoft game of the same name, but don't let that scare you off. A new ranger moves to a small town in Vermont, where a gas company is trying to build a pipeline. The odd duck residents of the town gather together during a snowstorm and discover that one of them is not what they seem. It's a clever Who's the Wolf mystery with some charm and a good helping of satire. Solid performances from Sam Richardson, who I recognized as Edwin Akufu from Ted Lasso, and Milana Vaintrub, who I don't recognize, give this a solid center. Not scary, but good fun. Wolfman, another movie from this year, was the first proper, serious werewolf movie of the night. A man takes his family to his deceased father's ranch in remote Oregon to clean the place out and reconnect with his wife, and help her reconnect with their daughter. On the way to the house, they encounter a beast they can't identify, fleeing to the old homestead to escape from it. This movie is able to build a spooky atmosphere very quickly, and even though it's predictable, I was engaged throughout. The wolf vision is pretty cool, it's medium scary, some very cool wolfing out sequences. Finally, to end the night, I watched one of the best movies in the genre, An American Werewolf in London from 1981. I don't remember if I've talked about this one on the cast already, so I'll try to keep it quick. A couple of American lads are on a hiking trip around England when they're attacked by something on the moors. One survives, and while he's recovering in the hospital, his deceased buddy appears and tells him he's a werewolf and can only be free if he dies. This is a pretty dark premise, and having your best friend's ghost telling you to kill yourself like it's ChatGPT doing mental health work is disconcerting. But somehow the movie's tone feels light until the madness of the last 10 minutes. Most of it's shot in daylight. It features a whirlwind romance with a nurse who is far too trusting. The poor guy doomed to turn into a wolf in one of the coolest transformations put to screen is really likable. All told, it's odd, but Great. Props to Rick Baker. No one turns people into monsters on camera better than he did. And that's it for the first week. 27 movies in the books, 25 days left to watch. Guys, I think something's wrong with me. Quick recap. Movies of the week: Hollows Grove, Lord of Misrule, Black Mountain Side, Deadstream, Nope, Sinners, Werewolves Within, Wolfman, and American Werewolf in London. If you're Gen Z or below, maybe check out Chad Gets the Axe. Maybe you'll learn something. Thanks for listening. You can send me recommendations or hate mail at octemberfestcast@gmail.com or comment on octemberfest.substack.com. Until next time, keep it spooky.